Back to the okay. Very good. All right. Well, I'd like to call this meeting of the Rotary Action Group for Community Economic Development together and welcome you to our fifth and final webinar on microfinance. I am Carl Treelevin, the chair of the Rotary Action Group for Community Economic Development for the Rotary years 23 until 25. And I'll be serving as your moderator today. We have a distinguished panel. And this session, the fifth one, is called basically Summary and Next Steps, because we want to, in the question and answers that we have today, we want to summarize what we've talked about in the previous 4 webinars. And then beyond that, and more importantly, is to help you identify what your next steps should be in case you're interested in this. So I want to begin first by giving you a little bit of background on RAGCED, which may be familiar to many of you, but for some of you is not. And it really begins with the United Nations Sustainable Development. The first one is the elimination of poverty in all forms everywhere. And that is really the starting point of the work that RAGCED does. Our task is simply alleviating poverty, and our strategy to do it is by investing in communities. And we do it in multiple ways. Now, our session today is microfinance, and that is perhaps the best known thing that RAGCED does. The important thing to realize, though, is that it is merely one of many different things that RAGCED does in its goal of alleviating poverty by investing. And I've listed here the various types of projects that we do in no particular order. Agricultural development. We're also involved with business incubation and accelerating the startup of businesses. We're also involved in coaching of businesses and in capacity building of them. We are involved in disaster preparation. We're not involved in response after a disaster has occurred. That's what the DNA RAG does. But our task is to focus on how to get ready in advance of a disaster. Then we also do work in environmental improvement, impact investing, microfinance, of course, as we're talking about today. We also are involved with the development of scholarships, particularly global grant scholarships from the Rotary Foundation. A relatively new area that we're involved in is village savings and loan and vocational training. Interestingly, vocational training is the biggest single area that RAGCED is involved with. Finally, and this is something that's really important, is RAGCED is providing help to many of the other 24 Rotary Action Groups. And the reason we do that is because there is an economic component to so much of the work that they do, and we believe we're in the best position to be able to help them with it. So these are the key areas that RAGCED is involved with. Again, today we're going to focus on microfinance. A different way to think about it, besides the types of projects we do, is in what we refer to as the 6 pillars of community economic development. And these are key things that are involved in pretty much every type of a project we do. And you'll see this later as we discuss microfinance. The first, of course, is assessing whether a project is appropriate. Second is providing education to the participants. And you'll see in particular how education is important in microfinance today. The provision of capital, mentoring, and networking, which are 2 things that Rotary clubs can be very effective at and are very important in this work. And finally, measurement and evaluation. So those are the 6 key things that we find common in so many of the different types of projects that we do. Now, what kind of help can RAGCED provide to you? A range of different things, all listed here. We can provide expert advice. We can help you with doing needs assessments, which are critical for Rotary projects. We can help you find project partners. We can provide you case studies that can be helpful to you in getting your project going. Help you identify funding sources, obviously a critical area. Provide training and education. Today's webinar, of course, is a perfect example of that. Share best practices with you. After all, RAGCED is a worldwide network of Rotarians and others who are very focused on economic development. And in that network, we can help you identify best practices out there. We also can help you with community outreach. And finally, project evaluation. So these are all the many different things that we can do for you. And ultimately, that means together we can create opportunities to help individuals, businesses, and communities thrive, both financially and socially. That is the work of the Rotary Action Group for Community Economic Development. So it brings us to our session today. And our objective is simply to provide you a summary about microfinance. We've had 4 previous webinars on different aspects of it. We want to summarize all that and then is really help you get ready to take the next step. Because if you're on this call, most likely you're either interested in doing something in microfinance or you're already doing something or getting ready to do something and you want to take the next step. We are here to help you make that happen. So I want to introduce our panelists today, the ones who will be answering questions that we've posed and also the questions you'll have an opportunity to pose. First of all, there's Juliana Corredor. She is a cadre from Colombia, the town of Sogamoso, and I have a hard time pronouncing the province, Sucamuchi, I believe. But the important thing is she's from Colombia and she knows a lot about microfinance. Then we have Samir Saha, who is from Calcutta in India. And then past District Governor Nick Frankel, who is both the head of our operations committee and a past president of RAGCED. He is from California in the US. Past District Governor Jeffrey Afo from Accra, Ghana. And finally, Wally Gardner, who also is a cadre from the very hot and humid town of High River, Alberta, Canada. So it's a joke, of course, because summer has barely come to Alberta at this point. They're probably still playing hockey, aren't they? So, anyway, this is our distinguished panel today. And if you have a question you would like to pose, then please put it in the chat box. We'll collect those. And then after this first part of the session, we will turn to those questions. So we've divided all the questions we already have into 5 categories. And the first one is, is microfinance the best solution for your situation? Second, what are the elements of a sustainable microfinance project? Third, what resources do you need to plan and implement a project? Fourth, how do you evaluate the impact of the project? And finally, and this is something that's oftentimes forgotten, how can you best tell the story of your project and what it's done? Because others will want to hear about it. So those are our 5 categories of questions now. So let us now turn to begin our session. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen here with everyone. And we'll begin with the first category of question, which is about microfinance. And our first question is, how can Rotary clubs support microfinance initiatives? How can Rotary clubs support microfinance initiatives? Who in the panel might like to answer that? Nick, go ahead. Oh.
Microfinance actually can be financed. Rotary has got very effective rate. So when the clubs are getting skill training and then surveys for the projects, small projects, then the entire district, which is divided into zones, which is divided into clubs, there the community development team, which is a non-medical project team, and even in our case, the district team, then the microfinance committee also. So this assessment and then skill training and then collaborating with the NBFCs which are giving microfinance and then monitoring their employment and project development, then assessment and then making a public image of Rotary clubs. I think these are the steps the microfinance clubs, Rotary clubs here are doing.
Thank you. Anyone else care to add anything else to that? Okay, let's go to our second question is, how can Rotary Club members educate themselves about microfinance?
I'll stick 2 cents worth in that. Attend one of these wonderful webinars that we put on all the time. Be a RAGCED member.
Okay. And maybe elaborate on that. What if they join RAGCED, how can they learn more?
I think basically check out our website and see some of the examples of projects that are there. That'll give you a good idea of how they were financed to start with as well. And more importantly, it'll give you contacts within the industry, if you want to call it, in quotes, of people that are actually working on projects or doing projects or have done projects. Frequently, what I find is that someone wants to do a microfinance project in some particular specific area, and I already know 3 other people that are doing that, maybe in a different country. So the first thing you can do is connect those people together, and they can start to ask questions. And then, of course, as you learn more, your questions become better and more to the point. So the education becomes more specific. And that's worked out very well in terms of establishing networking and having collaboration for possible future projects as well.
Very good. Thank you. So our third question is, how can Rotary clubs identify communities in need of microfinance services? Nick, you have any thoughts? Oh, okay.
Sure. You know, and let me begin by saying it's okay to start in your own backyard. Microfinance is not just something that's done in the poorer countries of the world. Look around in your own backyard and see if you have a community that would like to become entrepreneurs, but can't go to the bank, don't have the education, don't have the support. If not, through RAGCED, you can find projects that are going on around the world. If you work with communities, if your Rotary Club has partnerships with other communities, take a look at what's going on in those communities. In many cases, you'll find that projects like water and sanitation or some of the medical focuses are establish a community that is ready to go to the next step and improve their economy through the use of microfinance.
Anyone else?
Let me also quickly add, we can also partner our local authorities, get information on some of the communities that would need microfinance tailored for specific groups, specific products, so that you can take it from there. Obviously, a needs assessment will be very important in this regard.
Okay, very good.
Actually, every country, the government has got data about the below poverty level and what are the communities, areas where the people are staying who really needs microfinance, or rather they're very poor, and what are the occupation and small industries or farming, whatever going on. Every country, there are exhaustive data, and even census data covers that. Now, if anyone, any country, especially those who are in the microfinance, they count that data and then fix up according to the requirement that what they can do. So that may be a basis of needs assessment, because those data are quite authenticated by countries of the governments.
So what's going on? Our next. I'm sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
Walt.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
I think that's very important to look at existing data. I frequently use the example that, I'm from Canada. What do I know with what goes on in India, for example? I don't know the local context. I don't know the government sources. And it's important for a Rotary Club that's looking to start a microfinance project in a different country to understand that they're not the experts. And that's where you have to rely on local Rotarians to help you with things like the community assessment, which in my view is probably the most important aspect of the whole project. And also, when you're looking at a sustainability of a project, local Rotarians and local government sources will probably have better data. Well, most certainly will have better data than you're likely to get off the internet or, trying to read a book here in Canada. Go ahead, Carl.
Okay, so let's go on to our next question, which is, what are the potential benefits for a Rotary Club being involved in a microfinance project? Go ahead, Nick.
Well, Rotary President Stephanie Erchek has asked us to create the magic of Rotary. I don't think there's anything more magical than going into a community that can't feed itself, that doesn't have consistent employment, that can't keep the children in school. And as a result of the investment in that community through job creation, through education, through reaching out, through market development, you have now raised the economy of an entire community. People are working. In fact, one of my favorite stories is the man who told me, my kids can go to school and we have food on the table every day. And if that isn't the magic of Rotary, I don't know what is.
Good point. So, anyone else care to add to that? So let's look at a different aspect of it, is what are the social benefits of microfinance beyond social inclusion?
Okay, yes. Beyond the economic benefits of microfinance projects, it is important to highlight that they help empower vulnerable people, strengthening their capacity to be agents of change and motivating their self-development. It also has positive effects in reducing the rates of malnutrition, crime, and gender violence. I think this is how a true social system is built.
Very good. Anyone care to add to that?
Yes, let me say that creation of jobs through financing of startups and working capital to existing businesses is one. Obviously, poverty alleviation is another. And then would usually empower women, economic empowerment of women, as well as entrepreneurial development in our parts of the world. This always goes a long way, especially when the microfinance is targeted at low-income individuals, rural areas, and the like. So I think this will be my contribution.
Very good. Well, let's then move on to the second group of questions we have, which relate to the elements of a sustainable microfinance project. And so our first question is, what are the best practices for ensuring the financial sustainability of a microfinance program? Best practices. We'd like to start that easy topic.
Not really an easy topic, but I think probably the key thing to any kind of microfinance project is accounting. And it's rare that a Rotary Club has that kind of specific skill at running a microfinance project themselves, looking after the individual accounts and things. So I think you need to have an NGO working with you that has specific skills in that area. It can be done, and I've seen small microfinance banks set up in places like Nicaragua, for example. Everything was being done on card system. It was very much like an old library card type thing. You come in and make a deposit, and they'd stamp your card, and away you go. That can be done, but you need to have people that know their stuff. They're familiar with accounting principles. They've had previous experience working in any kind of financial management type things, or they've been bank workers in the past, those kinds of things. So the key thing in any part of that in terms of the management has got to be the actual accounting dollars and cents in the background. The second part of it is have a strong management team that's also looking after not only the grant management that you're getting from the Rotary Foundation, but also recording the data that you're collecting so you can use it in your final report. And ensuring that we're doing an excellent job at training and development in terms of business training. I refer to it often as getting a mini master's in business administration, but we have the competent people out there doing instruction on how to do customer relations management, how to sell things to people, how to do advertising, how to market, how to do cost control, all of the essential things you need in running a small business usually have to be taught to people and how to do that. So within the NGO or the Rotary Club that's running the microfinance project, you need to have people with those kinds of expertise.
Okay, very good. So what role does financial literacy play in the success for microfinance clients?
Peter has something to say. He raised his hand.
Peter, go ahead.
Please unmute yourself, Peter.
You can't.
No.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll go on with that. Anyone else at this point in terms of financial literacy?
You've got somebody with their hand up, Carl.
Yeah, a woman named Teresa Tutu, and
thank you for the opportunity.
There you are.
May
go
I?
ahead. Yes, go ahead.
So I'd like to know your view on charging a little finance charge on the cost of the financing. We are in an economy where inflation is very, very steep. And so to build in sustainability, to preserve the initial principle, what is your view of charging a little finance charge so that the original capital is not eroded after the cycle? I just want to know what you think of that. Thank you.
Very good question. All right. Panel, what do you think about the the role of charging interest, and also how much?
You see, well, India is one of the having largest microfinance depository. Here, earlier there is a central bank of India, which is Reserve Bank. They fixed, upper limit at 26%. The normal experience is that bank's operational cost for controlling or monitoring or even NBFC microfinance is very high due to the fact that it's a very small finance and they need a lot of HR or technology support for that. So bank's operational cost has been found here by a study at the 5% of the say per say 1,000 or per whatever you say total loan cost 5% of that. So in India, the rate was set by up to 26%. Beyond that, no microfinance institution would charge it. Being the bank rate being somewhere 7-8%, and normal traditional finance interest rate being 10%. But recently, this ceiling or this cap has been removed from the angle that a lot of microfinance are getting into defaults. So especially after COVID, the COVID gave a very high blow, very deep blow on the microfinance. So, the entrepreneur. So the losses were very heavy. So all the banks, they went to the Reserve Bank of India, the central bank of the country, and they requested that in fact their bank's capital are getting eroded on this. So presently, the Reserve Bank of India here has allowed to lift the cap with the recommendatory that there should not be a high or exorbitant interest charge.
Okay. Anyone else? Nick,
yeah.
Go ahead.
As Wally was talking about earlier, if you're doing this with a global grant or with Rotary funding, you have to have a partner to handle the loans and administrate them, and that partner has costs. At a minimum, you've got to allow the partner who's handling your money to recover their cost of handling your money, or eventually you'll be out of business. The intent is not to make money in a microfinance environment. And in many cases, microfinance has got a bad name because commercial institutions see it as a way to make money. It's not our objective, but we do have costs. And as you mentioned, Teresa, you want to retain the loan fund so that it can recirculate time and time again, and you don't want it to reduce because of cost of actually running the operation.
I think too, Nick is a good point that all of these costs are going to vary depending on the context and the country. For example, in Nicaragua, they were charging, I think, about 20% interest, and wanted to add in an insurance policy or an insurance program that actually would insure, pardon me, insure the loan and the people around it, so that if the loan holder happened to pass on or there was a problem, the insurance would pick it up. But to do that, they would have to add another couple of percent onto the interest rate charged to everybody, so that it was a mutual fund essentially, which then put them over the government legislation. And where that gets to be a problem, as Samir noted, is that the government's there and doesn't understand that that's what you're trying to do, is not make money on the thing, but make life better for everybody. So you have to get involved in politics and petitioning the government to change that policy and show them the reason. So it's an education function of educating your government on why we need new laws to be passed in whatever country to make that happen. But the intent is not to make money, as Nick said. Sometimes the struggle can be to find a certified financial institution within the country. My first question always is certified by whom? That can be a bit of a challenge, but it's not insurmountable. And with a little research and talking, it can be done. Back to you, Carl.
Okay, thank you, Wally. We have a question.
Just 1 minute. I will supplement Wally that in India there is a credit guarantee fund government has created. to take away the risk premium on the money, risk expenses of the bank and reduce the interest rate to that extent. This has been created by government. All the defaults in the microfinance are covered by this credit guarantee fund. So that the interest rate goes down, the bank does not charge the risk, expenses for taking the risk.
Yeah, in Colombia, microloans have the most higher interest rates because our government has a policy very strong for microfinance industry. You know, there are some differences between commercial microfinance and social microfinance.
Some people will be shocked at, the interest rate. They say, whoa, that's a lot of money. But when you point out that in some countries you'll have what they call the four for five men, where you'll have fruit vendors, etc., will go to the wholesaler in the morning, borrow 4 pesos to buy some fruit from the wholesaler, and then they have to go out and sell that to make some money on the streets. And at the end of the day, they owe the fruit seller 5 pesos. So what's your interest rate per day? Like 20% per day. So when a microfinance organization comes by and says, we're going to charge you 20% per year, it's like manna from heaven. It's a much better system and allows people to progress.
Good. We have a question from Alexandra Cincy. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Gomathi, can you unmute him?
Okay. Hi, thank you. Alexander, correct. Okay, I am from Brazil. Here in Brazil, we have the microfinance institution is a no-profit organization. It means they only can use the money for microfinancial projects, And if you give the money to them, they are going to use this money for other microfinancial projects. It doesn't matter if you're lottery or not, But the purpose of the money, of their money, is just for microfinancial, without the profits. Okay?
Okay. Any comments from the panel?
Carl, I think I wanted to touch on the role financial literacy plays in the success of
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yeah. So basically, it's very key because it helps to equip the loan beneficiaries with knowledge of the product, help them with market information, some business ethics, basic records, bookkeeping skills, and also how to measure sustainability. Basically, all these help them to apply the loan better and also increase their income. So financial literacy, I see as a very important component in the success of a microfinance program.
Thank you. So let's move on to our third group of questions, and this has to do with resources to plan.
Carl, I'm sorry, I just had one question before we move on from this. It's connected to this topic. So,
all right, go ahead.
This is to everyone on the panel. So now microfinance happens to be of two kinds in various countries. One, the group distribution, and the other, the individual distribution. Group distribution, I mean, as in a program which identifies based on needs assessment about a particular demography and distributes to maybe all the women in that area, and then they are trained on various vocations, and they train on microfinance. So that's a program that happens. So that's group distribution. And the other one is what gets dispersed, like what Samir happened to mention, where the beneficiary approaches the bank individually and then reaches out to the plan and gets the benefit. So which has been more successful and why? Because keeping in mind what Samir also happened to mention about defaults. So that's been one of the biggest evils across countries, especially in the developing world, where people are struggling because there have been plenty of defaults, and microfinancing has become increasingly difficult to attain because of this. So the innocent, I would say, the innocent beneficiaries suffer, while the people who find, loopholes always escape. So which do you think is a better way to proceed further, and what kind of examples can you show us of success in either of these?
Panel, thoughts on that? Nick?
Yeah, I think that you've got to start first, Rakesh, with the culture of the community. In some of the smaller communities where people know each other, rely on each other, bringing a group together has a lot of benefits, not just guaranteeing each other's loans but learning from each other, oftentimes becoming each other's customers, supporting each other as they go through the development of their business. And even in that case, you should have somebody from the microfinance institution or from Rotary who is sitting there as an advisor to the group when they run into problems and they don't understand how to handle the situation. In other countries, such as the work we do in the United States, it's all single user. The loans are made directly to a single entrepreneur, but when they get the loan, instead of having the group, what we give them, or what is often given to them, is a Rotarian mentor who plays that same kind of role to help them understand how to get from the idea that somebody just gave them some funding to start a business to actually start that business and make it sustainable. So I'm not sure there's an easy answer to your question. They both work well if they're the appropriate solution for the community in which the microfinance program is being put forward.
So in effect, a key thing is knowing about your community and its characteristics before making a decision like that.
Right.
Peter, you have your hand up.
Okay.
Yes, thanks for,
sorry.
Thanks for unmuting me. You both, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Juliana.
You go ahead, Peter, and then we'll do Juliana.
Okay. First, Peter.
Yes, good to see everyone. The commonality point here from hearing from you, Nick and Wally, and those that are talking about having successful grants here, if it's going to be done through Rotary or independently, is really the due diligence right at the beginning. This mentoring that we're talking about is really getting all the terminology we use, our ducks together, making sure that we have committed people, that we have backup, and to have teams of folks that are there even before you do your grant to make sure that the percentages of success will occur. So I just want to reiterate about how important it is, even before you dive in, just do it and take the money, to have all this set up in advance. And while you mentioned about the accounting, that is right bullseye, 100%. That's part of that spoke in the wheel. And once we have a lot of these elements put together, then the chances of having great success are greatly increased.
Juliana.
Okay. In Latin America, it's very common to have credit groups. And it's very common to use the Grameen system that is about groups, especially in small towns and rural areas. I think it's very important to use this kind of system when the community are small, because they increase the commitment between them, and usually they help themselves in the business, trying to pay on time the rates, etc. I think it's a very good thing, but especially in small communities. In rural areas, it is easier to control the manage of the money, because they can make meetings, and in these meetings receive all the money, and then one officer of the microfinance institution goes for this money too, and it's easier. It is a good way to collect the money of the credits.
Very good. Thank you. Well, let's move on to our next category. A quick reminder to our audience: if you have questions, please put it in the chat. And then when we get through this part of our discussion, we'll come back to your questions. So put your questions into chat, please. So our next question is, what partnerships can Rotary clubs form to enhance their microfinance efforts? What partnerships? Peter, you want to add something?
Yes, having public image and spreading the word in your communities, in your district, of what is going on with your project is a way to find other partners and partner with them, as well as outside of your own district. If you have the capability or knowing of other people there, I think you can greatly enhance the possibilities of finding partners that way.
Okay, good. Panel, thoughts on that?
We can work with other NGOs also. There are lots of NGOs who are working in the community development and entrepreneurship program for the poor. So Rotary clubs, if we join together with them, then the responsibilities and the work can be shared in a coherent way and in a strategic manner.
Okay, so how could a Rotary club go and find a qualified microfinance organization to work with them?
I think the best bet is through local Rotarians in the country you're interested in working with. They will have more expertise and local knowledge of what's happening. I know, for example, we first look on the internet to see who's listed, who has a presence. But then you have to say, okay, is this web page really in the country that you're interested in, or is it a total fraud, or how long have these people been in business for? You have to do your due diligence there. I know when we did our Honduras project, we were interested in setting that up. We had an NGO in Canada that was already operating with another NGO there. We didn't know a bunch about either of them. So my first approach was to go talk to local Rotarians, and over a lunch of chicken soup in downtown Tegucigalpa, we got the inside scoop on who's a good player in the field, who has the expertise that we were looking for, and assurances that yes, we're interested as a Rotary Club as well in helping you do that. So that's what made the success in our last project we did there. Having the local Rotarians, having local knowledge, and having a credible local NGO that had lots and lots of experience over a period of years in doing what we were interested in doing.
Good. Anyone else care to add something to that? Peter, go ahead.
Many countries have microloan associations, folks that are exactly into that endeavor. And so by looking into your particular countries or areas, you may find people that are already in there and get references. And some of them, if you're working with Rotary and Global Grants, may be already working with them. So that's another way to kind of find ways, finding some partners there and some mentoring.
Thank you. So let's move on to our next question. How can technology be leveraged to improve microfinance operations?
Jim had a question. He just raised his hands.
Oh, okay.
No question. But I just want to comment on another example of Rotary clubs. Who they can reach out to. Reach out to your district. your district may have a district international service committee chair or action group committees. And these groups cover all the areas of focus and have access to a lot of various partnerships, people that want to work with Rotary in their communities. So don't forget about your district team as well.
Or you can reach out to RAGCED.
And RAGCED as well.
There you go.
one of our
before
reasons.
we
So
yeah,
okay,
before we
good.
go to the technology part, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So when we partner with these institutions, how do we ensure they follow, or what kind of governance do you put in place to ensure that they do it according to what Rotary does things? Because
very good question.
Yeah.
So
sure.
So how do you put controls in on that third party organization to make sure they do things the way they should? Panel.
Well, you work very closely with them. There's a situation in the country right now where somebody actually had to change a microfinance partner because their experience was not what they expected it to be. But I think you stay in touch. Remember, the Rotary Foundation, if this is a global grant, holds the club accountable for how the funds are used. So it's really the close partnership that you've developed with your microfinance institution that allows you to work with them, ask them for monthly reports, quarterly reports, go over and visit them, go to the community. If you're the host partner, you should be in that community talking to people and make sure it's working out the way you want it to work out. So and the more important thing, or the equally important thing, is that I think, as many of you know, if it's a global grant and the grant is closed, the money stays with the lending institution. So that doesn't mean that your relationship with the lending institution necessarily ends when the grant ends. You want to stay in contact with them. You want to know how the money that you gave to them or that Rotary invested in them is being used, even though the Rotary Foundation is very happy with the grant. And if that money is not being used for loans, then it needs to be repaid to the Rotary Foundation. And I think a lot of the answer to your question, Rakesh, is the partnership that's formed between the local Rotary Club and the MFI who's doing the project.
So Nick, as a follow-on to what you just said, imagine a case where the grant is closed out and everything is worked out well. Most likely the members of that Rotary Club probably want to move on to the next project or next activity. How do you ensure that they're actually continue monitoring what the MFI is doing with the money?
Well, I'll give you an example. We did a Rotary microfinance project in my district in California. We met the requirements for closing the grant. The grant was closed. Once a year, at the end of the Rotary year, I get a report from the microfinance institution that tells me how the money that they actually monitor the money that was Rotary money, and I get a report on how that money is being used. The other thing is that it doesn't hurt to have somebody come to your Rotary Club and tell your entire club, you did this, and let me tell you, in fact, bring some of the beneficiaries with them to talk about what the impact has been on their life. Because I think Rotarians like to know what the impact of their investment is, and there's no better way than having a beneficiary, as I mentioned earlier, talk to you about the impact on their life, their family's life, and on the community. So I think part of it is the responsibility, but part of it is keeping yourself informed about what's going on because you were the original investor.
Right. So in effect, then, I think what you're saying is the club needs to realize that even when the grant is done, it has a continuing obligation to have somebody monitoring the grant. Otherwise, if they're not willing to do that, the MFI needs to send the money back to the Rotary Foundation.
Well, if the MFI is not loaning the money in accordance with the agreement with the club and the Rotary Foundation, yes, they have to return the funds. As I say, I know of some situations where there's been a mutual agreement to move on to another MFI. I don't know of anyone, and you might know more than I do, Wally, where the MFI actually stopped loaning the money when it was supposed to, because most MFIs are in the business to loan money.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point, Nick. All of this needs to be wrapped up, and according to global grant requisites too, in an MOU, a memorandum of understanding. And my daughter, the lawyer, will tell you that it's really hard to enforce those things, but an MOU should clearly delineate exactly who has responsibility for what, who's going to be doing reporting, for example, who's doing the actual supplying of the funds, those kinds of things. The problem can come up sometimes in that the cooperating organization has a change of staff or something. They look at this money on their books and go, "Oh, thanks very much for the donation." And you have to very clearly say, no, 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 no. This was not a donation. We have a memorandum of understanding, and this is what you're supposed to be doing with the money, and make sure that that is indeed what is happening. That could be problematic if it's a government. And I was going through this with somebody in South Africa as an example. And I said, well, what do? The government doesn't uphold their end. You've got a contract with them that says we're going to do this, and they're not doing it. And she says, well, in one case, in one of the Western townships, we actually had to take the government to court. And we sued them. So sometimes that's what it takes to get the action you're supposed to get. But, if it's set up properly, it's a legal agreement. Making a government or convincing a government or persuading a government can be an education opportunity in itself to say, this is what you agreed to, this is the budget, all the rest of it. And that becomes a very political type thing where you need to change government policy. With that, you'll need the help of local Rotarians because they'll know who who has the political influence in the country to make that all happen. Generally speaking, the MOU can save your bacon, though. When there's a change in personnel or something's not happening, you can appeal to the head office if you would. I had a situation where all of a sudden we're getting ghosted by a lot of things, and things are not going the way we want them to go. And in this bit about, oh, thanks for the donation came up, and I went, no, 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 no. Pulled out the MOU, sent it off to the head office and said, hey, we're not happy about this. This is what's happening, which resulted in their branch office getting an entire redo of their web page, their personnel, their financial policies, their accounting, everything. And eventually we got to the point where, yes, now we're back on track, and it happens. Rotary Foundation, if there's a grant over $50,000, will send out a cadre member who's trained in that particular area. I've done several of these. Juliana's done a bunch of them as well. And we'll look at a global grant sort of halfway through just to make sure that the NGO is on track with what they're doing. So part of the cadre job is to go talk to the beneficiaries, talk to the local Rotary Club, and talk to the NGO to make sure that everything is running the way it's supposed to be and all parties are happy with the result. On occasion, that can have gone sideways, but hopefully, because the cadre member shows up sort of halfway through the grant, you can get it back on track. There was one in Southeast Asia recently where the grant had gone off track a little bit because the NGO was using the money for something that wasn't in the agreement. So they had to sit down with their accountants and say, look, you need to move the money from here and put it back over there. And that's put it all back together and got everybody back to where they should be and within the terms of the grant. You have to remember at all times, the money actually belongs to the Rotary Club, not the Rotary Club, but the Rotary Foundation. Several Rotary clubs say, oh, it's our money. Well, no. It's not your money. It's the Rotary Foundation's money. And the Rotary Foundation has a very active stewardship group that ensures Rotarians around the world that their money is being used what it's being intended for.
Thank you. Well, let's move on. Alexander Cincy has a question, but if you'll hold that, and let's go back to the technology question. So the question is, how can technology be leveraged to improve microfinance operations?
Yeah, Carl, I'm sure the answer to this question will vary from one region to the other. But from my part of the world, Ghana, West Africa, technology can be leveraged to improve microfinance in 3 key areas. The loan applications, appraisal feedback, and disbursements can be impacted with technology. Indeed, the turnaround time for these activities can be shortened and made seamless. Second is recoveries and loan repayments. Obviously, mobile money platforms and what we call the Universal Supplementary Service Data, USSD coding, can be used to make loan repayments easier. And finally, communications with the beneficiaries of a microfinance program can be enhanced with technology. This will obviously reduce operational costs and enhance the program success. So yes, technology can be used to improve microfinance. Thank you.
Very good. Anyone care to add anything to what Jeffrey said?
Payment system can be digitized. Here in this part, we have very small payments that has been digitized so that the records are automatically kept of how the money, end use of the funds. No cash transaction nowadays taking place, except very remote villages. So that digitization here is very much being effective by digitizing the payment mode, the disbursal of loan mode.
Yes, technology is very useful technology is very useful in microfinance projects, but it depends of the availability of the microfinance institutions. It depends of the its capacity, the skill, expertise, etc. And it's very useful to control when the global grant is finished the numbers and beneficiaries and how it's happening with the Rotary money in the microfinance institution.
Thank you. Gomati.
Carl, I have a question. Samir, in India, do we check credit scores to give loans, especially to small groups?
Yeah, there are small help groups, SHGs it called, and there are about 13 million SHGs in India. And there are joint liability group. The joint liability group, the beauty is that if the group is of say 10 people, 10 borrowers, then any single default, the whole liability is borne by rest of the 9. So these 9 people always impress on the 10th people that please don't default. So that way joint liability group is very successful here. And self-help group is successful from the angle that they are a team which works. Something back on what Agnes was saying. So training, development, entrepreneurship, all this does not remain isolatedly with one individual. If a group of 10 are doing it, then everybody is being helped by everybody, and they inculcate a joint entrepreneurship group.
Thank you. So let's move on.
I have a question. Now,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Carl. So I understand all these things that were mentioned now were connected to the operations of these microloans. But for all of this, we need access to computers, and we also need to have a good internet resource. In most villages where microfinance prevails are not well connected, and they don't have that infrastructure there for use. Not many, even if you go to some of these villages, to the schools, they don't have computers. So how are you going to help technology reach these people first, even before using technology for microfinance?
I will give the latest position. You see here we have a digitized payment system which is through phone lines. So you don't need any computer. You need only a mobile. And coincidentally, the mobiles have invented in such a way that even a very, very poor person, they are also possessing a smartphone. So here the QR code and the phone, that's what is working wonder here. So even if you, in our village, if you go to a small shop, they have a QR code displayed in front of their shop. And you just scan that QR code, your payment is there. Nowadays, no taxis or the hired vehicles for the short trip. They are not accepting cash. They only say, this is my QR code. So in the cab, there is a QR code displayed. You just put the QR code, scan it, and your payment is done. So there the problem is being solved since it is on the phone lines. But I do agree, still there will be some places where there will be connectivity issue.
So in other words, the solution to the lack of computers is through mobile technology.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that will work as long as there is a mobile technology to avail yourself of. Places like Uganda, for example, outside of Kampala, get more than 10 feet outside of the city, and there's no cell coverage whatsoever. And if your banking is being done in rural areas where there is no infrastructure, then you're a little bit hooped to use the mobile technology platform. It works very efficiently. It's absolutely marvelous technology, but you need to have a cell infrastructure to make that go. Other places have been using tablets, and their bank workers, if you would be going out to visit their trust groups and things on a motorcycle. They take their tablet with them. They record everything on the tablet, and when they get back to the main office, the tablet connects to the server in the office. There's a satellite link between that satellite office and the main office back in the capital, and everything's run off one server. So you can have sort of store and forward type technology as well. That works very, very well. The advantage of that is that the bank workers are not going out and actually collecting money from anybody, so they're not subject to being robbed on the way back to the bank. And that's the beauty of that part of it. Plus, anybody at any time can get a reading off of the bank worker's tablet that says, here's what your account is at right now. There's individualized, or if they happen to go into the center where there is a service, then they could use their cell phone there to actually access their account.
Okay, thank you. Well, in the interest of time, let's move on to the fourth group of questions, which is related to evaluating the impact of a microfinance project. And our first question is, how can Rotary clubs measure the impact of their microfinance projects? Panel.
Wally, I think that's yours.
Okay, I'll take that one. I'm pleased to do so. There's a number of ways. The best way, I think, is sort of a pre-survey of what the economy looks like, and that can be simple questions like, how far do you have to walk for water? Are your kids in school? How do you pay for uniforms? Do all your kids have shoes? What's your nutrition level? Do that ahead of time, and then use that in contrast with what happens after you've started your microfinance efforts within that particular area. The economy has improved. Generally speaking, the nutrition levels of the family are up. The education levels are up because the kids are in school. The self-esteem of usually the single moms that are doing the business has gone from I can't do anything with my life to now I have hope. And one of the things that we have to look at is what we're selling here really, is what we're giving people is hope. They know that, okay, now I have a direction in my life. I have a business I can run. I've gone from being somebody that had no influence whatsoever to being a business owner. I've got a group of friends that are also business owners. I'm part of a chamber of commerce, if you would. That's a huge impact. There's two kinds you can look at. You can look at the quantitative, which is anything to do with a number. And you can measure income levels, like how much money did you make last year, how much money did you make this year. Those are all quantitative numbers. Or the harder to measure things are things like qualitative. And that can be very interesting. What you get into is what happens, after you've done your project. In one case, we set this all up. We went back 2 years later to figure out how and see how our impact in the community was, and the entire community had gone from being sort of a brown desert with no water to all of a sudden there's water. That water was being used in agricultural pursuits, and all of a sudden these ladies were involved in selling a product in another country. And I said, "So you've gone from being housewives to international businesswomen?" And they said, "Yes, we have." So that's a huge impact right there. So think about the quantitative stuff, which is the easy stuff to measure, and then think about the qualitative stuff. Juliana had a great idea: is take pictures. Here's what it looked like before. Here's what it looks like now. In case in a project that one of the clubs in our district ran in the Philippines, the before picture was basically very poor housing, people's, and on a fairly packed street, to starting up a microfinance project in that area. And when you go there now, there's bustling happening. There's an economy happening. There's every place along that street is a shop with people living above the shop. Everybody has better clothes, better income, better food, and kids are in school.
Very good. Thank you. So what are the long-term economic impacts of successful microfinance programs? Long-term impacts. Panel?
As it's been studied, most of the research said that one of the long-term impact is the enhancement in the standard of living. As Wally said, the quality and quantitative both. The per capita income must grow. The number of entrepreneurs should be increased. The infrastructures created for the microfinance should be increased. The training capacity to train the micro entrepreneurs has to be, if it is increased in long term. And of course, I think it has already said by that the benefits be seen. I mean, the flow of the benefits should come. They should feel the self-esteem, the self-respect. There has to be inclusivity, and they should feel, yes, I'm one of the important person of the society. I don't feel neglected. I am now self-dependent. I think these are the long-term impact of the microfinance.
Very good. Thank you. A quick reminder to our participants: if you do have a question, please put it in the chat box, and we'll get to it once we get through the formal part of this. So one more question in this area is how do microfinance initiatives influence local entrepreneurship and small business growth? Panel, your thoughts?
Well, to a certain extent, that's the whole purpose of microfinance, is to provide education, support, and capital to people who otherwise would not have access to it. And therefore you see an increase of small businesses in the community or around the community. And I want to go back to Samir's comment is, you can if you go into a community where there has been entrepreneurship and the level of self-sufficiency has risen, you can tell the difference in the way the people walk around. They are self-confident. They feel good about themselves. It's just a feeling in the entire community that we have done something together, and it's better for us, it's better for our families, it's better for our children, it's better for our community.
Good. Thank you. So let's move on to our last set of questions, which relate to telling your story to the community and a Rotary. And the first question is, what are the potential benefits for a Rotary Club involved in microfinance, at least in terms of enhancing the club? How does microfinance help the club?
Peter has raised his hand.
Peter, go ahead.
Yes, thanks, Carl. We always hear about increasing membership and retaining members in our clubs. And if you have some of the folks in your club that start to join some of these projects, not just if your club does it, but even another club, that involvement will keep folks engaged and will be good for growing the club and retaining members.
Okay, good point. Others?
Public image gets much enhanced and wider if you do microfinance and work with the communities. Rotary public image is much more spread. Inclusivity concept is much more spread for the Rotary International.
Okay. So our next question is, how can Rotary clubs document and share the success stories of microfinance beneficiaries?
Yes, Karen. As we say in Colombia, a picture is worth 1,000 words. It is important to have a photographic register pre and post loan by visiting the beneficiaries, taking pictures before and after, and if it is possible to make a video clip with testimonies of the beneficiaries. This task is excellent to involve the Rotarians in the project, creating confidence with the community and beneficiaries, and improving the public image of Rotary, and of course, documenting the successful of the project for each individual. I really think it is a good opportunity for Rotarians to join to microfinance projects through the training to the community by sharing their knowledge, their own experience as entrepreneurs maybe, and it really helps to the successful of the project.
Very good. Other comments from the group?
I think the other thing you find is that when you speak about the success of microfinance to a Rotary Club, they then want to replicate what was going on. If you look in the country of Honduras, where Wally's been working, or even in the country of the United States, where we've had successful pockets and somebody says, that's really a neat idea. I can do it in this community where I live, or I can do it in this community where my friends live. And I think the ability to communicate to Rotary clubs, this not just that you've done it, but you've done it successfully, and the impact, and it is replicable. And that's one of the things, of course, that RAGCED can help people with, is replicating a microfinance project. I think it has a much bigger impact than a single Rotary club.
Point. Wally.
If I could stick 2 words in there for insight tours. It's often, as Nick has mentioned previously, useful to take your Rotary Club and people from your district to actually go out to the community where your project is being operated and see for themselves what has happened, talk to the beneficiaries, see what the changes are. In many cases, you're going into areas where individually a Rotarian would not even dream of going. But if you can say, okay, you're going to go, you're going to be hosted by local Rotarians, you'll be in a group of us, and, nothing will happen to you. That kind of fear goes away. I was talking about some of the work we've been doing in El Salvador, and one of the comments I got from my club members was, okay, I'm never going there. I went, well, you might. If you were assured that this is how it will operate. But the reality of that is that people see with their own eyes exactly what the power of microfinance is, how it's changing lives, what the impact has been. And then they go back to their clubs within their district and say, wow, I was just in Nicaragua, Colombia, Africa, wherever. Okay. And we went to this village, and this is what your dollars are doing in that village and how it's changing lives. And you immediately have a champion for microfinance within that club that's keen on doing a project. Our RAGCED group has tons of examples and expertise in how to set that up, and can help clubs that want to get started in microfinance do exactly that. So I think it's a winning combination.
Agreed. And don't forget, where you have connectivity, the thing we're doing today is a wonderful way to get your club members to understand what's going on. Take a phone to the community, connect with them, and let the entire club hear from the beneficiaries and see from the beneficiaries. Coming back to your comment about technology, one of the greatest tools we have in technology to keep your club members and district members current is exactly what we're doing today, globally getting together and seeing the impact of what we do. So don't forget, you don't have to get on an airplane to meet the beneficiaries sometimes.
Good point. Jim Ludick, you have a question or a comment?
Yes, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I know Margaret is on the call, and I would like her maybe to say a little bit about, what they're doing with Launch Detroit, because this is not only a Rotary Club project, but it's also a district project. And I know they've got great PR, throughout the Detroit region on Launch Detroit. So Margaret, if you're listening, could you say a few words about Launch Detroit and how you've got out to the community and how people know about what Launch Detroit is all about?
Maybe first, be sure to, Margaret, for the benefit of others, explain what Launch Detroit is.
Okay. Launch Detroit. Oh, hello, everyone. And I have really enjoyed all of the wonderful information. In fact, some of it is useful to what we're doing here in Detroit. Launch Detroit is a microfinance project. And we started it in District 6400 in 2012. And our intent was to do what we've been discussing, empower individuals who want to open or expand a business and didn't have the same access to resources. And we identified those resources as a mentor, networking opportunity, business training, micro loans. And so what we have done is provide that opportunity to over 100 entrepreneurs in the Metro Detroit area. And we focus primarily, we thought about women, and we wanted to, because that is something, that's where they don't always get the same opportunities and advantages. But we have not excluded men. And our entrepreneurs have experienced success like you've heard this morning. In fact, just the other day, one of our entrepreneurs who started by making a relish in her kitchen from a 100-plus-year-old family recipe, who is now in major grocery stores in multi-states in the Midwest, and has gotten contracts because her product is now at the Detroit Airport, where she's doing business with international companies that stock the stores at the airport. So this is someone within 5 years that went from her kitchen. And so that tells you the value of what we're speaking about, because it happens. And dignity, empowerment, economic success. And so we raised money for our micro loans from our Rotary clubs. And yeah, so we have 50 plus Rotary clubs. They donated the money for the business education as well as the micro loans. And we charge like a $5 carrying fee we loan the money, and we are still revolving the loan money that we received in 2012. In addition, we applied for a global grant. We received that in 2017. It was a 2-year grant to work with 30 plus entrepreneurs, and we accomplished that. But I guess what I'd like to say, what I see as the success is what happens when you open doors for individuals who are committed to being successful. And every entrepreneur we've encountered with the drive and the commitment to see that business be successful has experienced success in various ways. Some have determined that they're not quite ready for entrepreneurship and the sacrifices, but most forge ahead. And what we offer as Rotarians through the mentorship opportunities from our district members, as well as the loans that we make, we decide, and they have a year to pay it back. It's just been such a benefit. And what I've seen in this community is that we've shown that it's a safe bet to work with entrepreneurs, because in Detroit, the average thinking at the banks was that you needed at least 5 years of business success in order to qualify for a loan. And what we as Rotarians, along with others doing similar work, have shown is that it's a great risk, because small businesses really are the backbone of communities. So we're seeing in Detroit, and you can just, if you have access to the internet, Google it, you will see specific programs that were not in place in 2012, now in place. Grants, business opportunities, connections, involvement of major corporations and banks in working with entrepreneurs just entering the market. So I guess to say that what we're speaking about today is important. And the other part that made a difference with our Launch Detroit program is the fact that early on, we had people from RAGCED, at the time we were something else, but economic development, actually traveled to Detroit to help us set up and evaluate Launch Detroit. And Jen Ludick was one of the first people I met. And my thought was, why is he taking time to come from Canada or Launch Detroit? And what he shared with us, because of his experience around the world, made all the difference in the world in how we approach microfinance and how we continue to. So I just say this is a great opportunity for anyone to be connected to RAGCED, because it makes all the difference to work with people with experience and with commitment to help make dreams come true.
Good. Thank you, Margaret. So somewhat along the same line, a general question from our audience is, what kind of technical support can RAGCED provide, to Rotary clubs? Nick, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, we can do everything from help you do a community assessment to find if microfinance is the answer. And as Carl mentioned, there are a lot of different ways to raise the economic well-being of a community. We can help you find a partner. Right now, we're helping a club find some international funding to complete their funding profile. We can give you examples of successful projects. If you're writing a global grant, we can help you create a global grant that will meet Rotary requirements. And perhaps one of the most important things we can do, we can provide you curriculum support for the education side. We can provide you measurement and evaluation support for the impact side. Our job, our responsibility and our mission is to help Rotarians plan, implement, evaluate impactful and sustainable microfinance projects anywhere in the world. We have people all over the world. We have members of the cadre who work with us. We work with third-party organizations such as Opportunity International or FINCA or World Vision, who can help us in global projects. And I mean, at the end of the day, we are here to help you make a difference in the community that you support, whether it's your own community or whether it's someone else's community that you got a partnership with. Our job is to help you be successful. And one thing we didn't talk about, but it's very consistent across at least the Rotary sponsored global grants, is we have a payback rate between 95 and 97%. And if you're a banker, I'm sure you'd love to have a payback rate like that. And that's why you do education and you do mentoring and you do networking and you do support. You visit the community and you get that kind of support and response. So we're here to help in any way that we possibly can across the full microfinance. But if you're doing things that are helping build your economic community, the economic well-being of your community, and it's not microfinance, we're still here to help.
Very good. Thank you. So we've covered a range of questions. Unfortunately, we had a couple more questions out there. And for those who may want those questions answered, I'd recommend you either visit the RAGCED webpage or one of the emails I'm showing here. So if you've got specific questions on microfinance, send an email to operations@ragced.org. If you have questions about Rotary Foundation grants, the same place. And any other questions you might have, go to info@ragced.org. And there are people who can address that. If you'd like to follow up with any of our panelists, here are their email addresses, and I'm sure they'd be happy to talk with you further about this.
Carl, if I can make one last comment, there is a question from Cyril in the chat box. And the simple answer, Cyril, is yes. But when you take a look at, we can help you with vocational training. We can help you with microfinance. If you want to do it as a global grant, then we've got, as you've heard today, we've got several cadre people that can help you create that grant so that if you want to do vocational training and microfinance to help the people you've trained, the cadre people can help you understand how to do that. So if you respond to info or operations@ragced.org, we'll be here to help you.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Also, we have a recording of this event. It should be available in about 48 hours on YouTube, so please check at that point. And we try to record all of our sessions like this. So when you go there, you'll probably see recordings of other programs that we've done. Also, support to our technical support folks. Gomathi has been managing this along with Rakesh Babuji, and we thank you very much for your help on that. And of course, all of you can make a difference. And we hope that you will show support for community economic development, which is one of the 7 areas of focus of the Rotary Foundation. And you can share all this information with us. And if you do, through your Rotary Club, plan to develop some type of a community economic development project, RAGCED is here to help you in all the different ways that we've talked about already. So you can find us, of course, at ragced.org. You can email us as we discussed, and we'll have further programs coming up. Your support is very much appreciated. Share this with your friends, your fellow Rotarians, because you can make a huge difference out there. again, our core goal is the alleviation of poverty, and we think by investing in individuals, businesses, and communities, we can do that most effectively. So thank you very much for your participation today, and this ends our webinar.
Thank you to all.